So I'll put you both on the spot. How many names of neighbors can you name right now?
I would say
I want you to name
75.
them.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
All of them?
How many do you think there is in this list?
I know the dog's name, Jay.
Well, that was another question. Is do you know the pets' names?
I know more pets' names.
Interesting. Okay, you've passed the
we're in a
test as well.
cul-de-sac,
Okay, what about
so it's
you?
small.
Okay.
Yeah. Welcome to the Real Estate Podcast. This is episode number 348, and today we're talking about how to be a good neighbor and love where you live.
Welcome to the Real Estate Podcast, your go-to source for raw, unfiltered stories and expert tips. Whether you're a buyer, seller, tenant, landlord, or realtor, join us as we dive into the world of real estate.
All right. So today I'm joined by Kristen and Sylvia.
Hello.
Thank you for being on today in lieu of Ariel being up at the cottage.
Yes.
So today I wanted to talk about, I was creating some content for the website the other day, and it was just a blog, an article about finding the right location to move to. And, you see all the typical realtors saying location, 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 and, making that a priority, which is important to find the right location when you're buying something. But I think what's more important that came to me as I was finishing off this content is not necessarily that you're buying into the right location, but that wherever you buy, you make it the right location, just in terms of connections with your neighbors and being social and stuff like that. And then it also reminded me of a conversation I had with a client recently as we're getting their house ready for sale. And I asked them about doing some repairs to the driveway, and they have a townhouse which is shared with the driveway is shared with the neighboring townhouse. And he's like, oh yeah, no, there's no way I would get them to agree to it because we don't get along. And I'm like, how miserable would that be to live in a house, especially a townhouse where you're sharing a driveway? You probably, get in and out of the car next to the same person almost every day, shoveling driveways together, and you don't get along. It would just be very unpleasant. Mm-hmm. So then that got me thinking about how can you make, and what sort of advice can we give people to make the area that they buy, the neighborhood that they buy, more enjoyable.
Yeah.
I don't know, you obviously being right behind me and Ariel. So for those listening that don't know, Ariel and I are next door neighbors, and then you live immediately behind Ariel.
Yeah.
And your neighborhood, your little street there's always something going on.
It's always happening.
I think Ariel told me the other day that he woke up at 4 a.m. and heard some activity.
Yes.
Was that you?
Yes. We had a street party. It was Canada Day weekend. It wasn't Canada Day. I think it was on the Friday we had it. And it was, it went very late. We had a really good time. Our neighbor actually
4 a.m.
5:30.
Oh my God.
Because my neighbor was leaving to go golfing. Like, he came to have a cigarette, and then he was like getting ready, like with his morning routine to go golfing. And then he's like, you guys are still out here? We're like, oh my gosh, it's really early. Like, the sun was up. So we shut it down. Yeah.
You're sort of outside the whole time?
Outside the whole time. The bonfire
out front or in the backyard?
There. In the front.
Oh, yes.
Because every time we're in the back, maybe not so much now because we haven't done it since last year, but somebody would always call the cops, and I always thought it was Adrian.
Really?
Oh, that's funny.
Because it only happened in the back.
That's funny.
And
I swear.
And I knew your kids were small, so I'm like, why doesn't he just tell me that we're too loud?
I can't. How long have you been holding a grudge against me?
Oh, for quite a while. I had a conversation with Ariel a couple of years ago, and he's like, no, I don't think it'd be Adrian.
No, 100%. I would never. I would speak to someone before I called
I think
the cops.
It was your next door neighbors. They were renters at the time.
Oh yeah, maybe.
I think it was them.
Yeah, and they were nice, but they weren't overly social. Like, they didn't spend much time outside, and I would speak with them when they came home, but it was minimal conversation. So possibly. Yeah. And one of them was a shift worker.
Oh,
so that could have been.
Why. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I have not seen 5:30 a.m. I mean, I see 5:30 a.m. every day, but not like that.
Oh, you know what? It takes a couple days to recover.
Oh yeah, I'd be out for a week.
You're just tired. That's what it is. Yeah, you're just tired.
So how long have you lived where you live?
So we've been there now 11 years.
Okay.
11 years.
And Kristen?
5 on my current street.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll put you both on the spot. How many names of neighbors can you name right now?
I would say
I want you to name them.
75. Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. All of them?
How many do you think there is in this list?
From my neighbors, like all my neighbors on my entire street?
Do you know them all?
No.
But how many do you think you know?
So I have Scott, Sarah, Wahid. I don't know Wahid's wife. But okay, Wahid. Then it's us. Tom and Daria. Anne-Marie. Then we have, I don't know their names. Then we have Francesca, Ishan, Monica, Alex, oh my gosh, Kelsey. We have Christine. We have
Okay, you've passed
Lisa.
the test.
There's
Kristen?
You want me to name them all as well? Okay, so we've got Norman, Terry, Lynn. We've got Tim and Andrea, I think her name is. The Boyles. I only know them as the Boyles. I don't know their first names. We've got George and Andrea. Then we've got Tim and Lori. And then I've got Jamie and Carrie Ann. We've got... I know the dog's name, Jay.
Well, that was another question. Is do you know the pets' names?
I know more pets' names.
Interesting.
Beth across the road.
Okay, you've passed the test as well.
Okay, what about you?
Small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've been reciting
You
this
can't
just so that
piggyback off her either.
No. Well, first of all, in my street, it's been a lot of turnover.
There has been. Yes.
But from the ones that I do know, my next door neighbors. Ariel and Natalie, they're next door, obviously. My other neighbors, they moved in last year. So that's Sean and Christina. They're really nice, young couple, no kids. And we've become quite friendly. Beside them is Laith. I don't remember his wife's name, but the kids go to the same school, so the girls know them. Across the street is Adam. I don't remember his wife's name. They have a little girl. And next to Ariel, I don't know them. I don't know that they really speak English at all, but they're very friendly. We always smile and wave. Then you've got Leslie and Wayne, who've been there. I think they're original owners, aren't they? Yeah. And then Colin, who's also been there for a long time. Chris and Carly down the street.
Eva,
yeah. I don't know Eva very well. I know that you do and Ariel does. She's the insurance broker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that would be, and then I've got on little side streets around the corner and stuff like that. I know a few people as well. But that was another point, was one of the reasons I really like resale homes, and I'm not fond of new construction, especially given everything that's happened in the last little while, is they're very transient. Like the turnover is so frequent that you don't get to know anybody.
Yeah. And
it's not fun, right? Like I've kept in touch with two of the old neighbors that, like the next door house, the house beside me has gone through, now this is the third owner, the fourth occupant, because it was rented before as well. But I've kept in touch with both previous owners. On occasion, I'll just call them up and see how they're doing.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. The other day I was chatting with the girls, because Tessa's now of the age where she's staying home on her own a little bit for short trips and stuff. Like if Alicia and I are going out with McKenna to a grocery store or something, we'll let Tessa stay home if she wants. We tell her not to eat any food because I have this phobia of choking. I always did, even when they were babies, when they were eating blueberries and stuff. So I'm like, I said, Tessa, if you ever are at home and you're eating and you choke, what do you do? And she says, well, I use a chair to give myself the Heimlich. So I was impressed that she knew that. I'm like, okay, but if that doesn't work, what do you do? She's like, well, I'd go knock on a neighbor's house. And I'm like, yes. I said, yes, but never knock on Ariel's door because they don't answer the door. And then I got thinking, because Ariel's like, why do you answer the door all the time? Because we were talking about door knocking. Mm-hmm. And I feel what my answer then was, because it's a hard job and I want to give them, I respect what they're doing.
Yeah.
Same.
But then it also made me think, it's also, I think, neighborly to answer the door.
Yeah.
Right? Like you never know who's coming. Someone might want help or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, I thought it was funny. I said, never knock on Ariel's door.
Yeah.
Even if there's a car there, just do not knock on it. Go across the street, go next door.
That's so
'cause
funny.
You'll get a better, more likely response.
Yeah. But talking about being neighborly and opening the door, this is a perfect example because a couple weeks ago, we have a fairly newer family that has moved onto our street. And so you can tell the girls is just starting to come out and make friends on our street. And she came knocking on my door and I opened the door and I recognized her just from like walking up and down the street. But she gave me a little poster because she was doing a bracelet sale.
Oh, nice.
And like, I guess
Oh,
that
that's
was just
cute.
a way of her trying to get to know all the kids on the street and stuff. So yeah, if I wouldn't have opened the door, I wouldn't know. And she's like, are you going to come?
Was this an adult?
No, this was the little girl.
This is a little
That's
girl.
cute.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice.
We
Yeah.
actually had, we have a woman across the road that my son looks after her cats when she's away. She just turned 80. She lives on her own, big house, travels like Vietnam. She goes to these places by herself. Like it's unbelievable. Anyway, speaking of knocking on the door, about 2 months ago, she came, knocked on the door and she was having a really hard time breathing. And my husband's a firefighter. So she said, can you take me to the hospital? Like, and which is across the road. So, my kids would never have opened the door,
Yeah.
but she's fine. Everything was fine, but
Yeah.
you just never know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's good. Did she know he was a firefighter?
Oh yeah. Like we met her probably the day we moved in. So
okay.
he does her snow and all that stuff
Yeah.
when it's
Yeah.
so neighborly.
Yeah.
I think he just likes to drive the snowblower. Because he just goes around, he's down the road. I'm like, hello.
Yeah. Well, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't get to use the snowblowers often.
Yeah.
And
This
for
year you
those
did.
who enjoy it, this year we did. For those who enjoy using it, it's kind of effortless,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Just especially given the size of most of our driveways. So I'll always do several. And this year we had a lot of snow. So I was helping a few people, especially with the windrows at the end of the driveways, which can get challenging at times. And I think that goes a long way.
For sure. Actually, she ended up giving us because he did her driveway all year. She gets out there and does it by
Oh my
hand. And she's got a
gosh,
big
poor
double
little
cart.
lady.
It fits 4. But there's often times when she gets up in the morning and it's done because he'll get up and do it. And she gave us a gift card for $100 for a bunch of restaurants. But,
That's nice.
like
Yeah.
it does. It goes a long way.
For
and
sure.
he
So
loves it.
what advice would you have for, I mean, I think especially for first-time buyers, like how they can socialize and get to know their neighbors?
I think just come out and be friendly, right?
Yeah.
Because at the
Go
end
for
of
But it
the
doesn't
day-
come naturally to people
It
nowadays.
doesn't.
Right? They're so consumed with electronics.
Yeah.
It helps
talking-
if you have a dog
Yeah,
because you're
pets.
out, you're,
Mhm.
yeah.
But I have, so there's a house sort of across and one over from us. And they just moved in. That house is being rented. So they're new tenants. They've probably been there maybe a month. And nobody knows, like we've been chatting with the neighbors, nobody knows what they look like because they literally come in and they go into the garage and garage closes and you never
That's
see
it.
them.
Yeah.
They never come out. So maybe that's just them. They're not social. But I guess if you were a family that was social and wanted to get to know your neighbors, don't do that, right? Park your car outside, or even if you do park your
Yeah.
car, come outside. If there's neighbors, wave. Like I understand, like for some people it's awkward to come and introduce yourself, but
Yeah. Well,
you have.
so
if you
ways to overcome that. I think that's the trick, right? Is how do you, especially if you're an introvert or you just whatever the reason is, you're not comfortable. Maybe you're of a different culture and you
Mhm.
find it intimidating.
yeah,
How can you make that easier? I would say the same as when we're talking about door knocking is provide value. Don't just
Mhm.
knock on a door awkwardly and try to sell yourself. It's provide value to the person. So in this case, maybe bringing something like a couple times recently, I made tiramisu and it was huge. So we made a few extra plates and I was being too lazy. So I had my girls run to a few houses
you
to
never
drop
came
it
by
off.
my house.
You're too far by the time we get around there.
You just yell out at me and throw
Okay.
it over the fence or
I
pass it
will.
over the fence.
Next time I will. And then we did it. I borrowed Ariel's smoker. His Traeger's got this Traeger smoker. And I can't remember what we were doing. What were we doing? Oh, McKenna's birthday. We had family over. And I thought, I'll do pulled pork because she wanted mac and cheese. And I'm like, oh, that goes well together.
Yeah.
So I borrowed his Traeger and I had it going from 8 o'clock in the morning. And then by 3 o'clock, I had to leave to go to this birthday party event we had scheduled. And it was not done yet. And it was a 5 pound, like smaller piece of meat. But I'd never done it before. And it wasn't done. So I called my neighbor, Sean. And I'm like, hey, like, are you home tonight? He's like, yeah. I'm like, can you check on my barbecue every half hour or so? And so he did. And still by the time I got home, it wasn't done anyways. But, so I brought him some of the, like a side dish of all the different things we made that day.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a couple of days later, he called me and asked me if I had a hand tamper because he's building something in his backyard.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people borrow from, like, they almost, like, well, in his case, he had rented one already.
Oh, wow.
And then his dad was over. He's like, well, just ask your neighbor.
Yeah.
And I had one.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think a lot of people resort to renting before asking. Like, they feel, maybe they feel.
And that's a good point because that's important. And like, I know with our neighborhood, we have like a Facebook page, right? Whereas, tools like that, like you have one, I have one. So if people just come out and ask, number one, you save yourself money. But number two, you get to meet your neighbors. You get to, so I know when we bought this home from the builder and our previous home we bought from the builder as well. But our previous street, it was great. We were surrounded by people that were same age as us. So we all had sort of kids around the same time. Our house was the corner house. So we sort of more gravitated to the other street because it was more quiet. So we would have street parties there. So when I first moved into our house that we're currently at, it was July. And I was so surprised, like my kids were 2 and 4 at the time, that nobody was outside. Like nobody was outside. I'm like, we just made a massive mistake. I'm like, we left a street because we're very, like Steve and I are very social. We left a street where our kids had friends. Like we were super close to school. Like it was great to now live on a street where like there's nobody comes outside. It's summertime. And we were so upset. But then come winter, again, we were always outside. It was a bad winter, I think, that year. So my husband was out there with the kids. We had tons of snow. They were building igloos. And all of a sudden, Christopher from like across a few houses down came out with his kids. And they started, and we're like, thank God there are other people. And then that summer we decided, so now we got to meet Christopher, we got to meet Sarah. And I'm like, you know what? I go, we used to do street parties at my old street. I'm like, we're going to do this because we need to meet everybody. And that's what we did. We went and we put little stickers like with just handmade posters on the door. It's like, this is the weekend. It's going to be July long weekend, like Canada Day long weekend. If you can make it, great. If you can't, fine. Bring a little dish to share and let's get to know each other. And I think probably minus maybe, I would say less than 10 homes didn't actually come out. Everybody else came out.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's an easy way to do it. Like you're not even.
You don't even have to.
You don't even have to
there's
talk
no
to them.
commitment. No.
You just go
You
and
put a sticker and the social ones will come to you.
And we had, so my immediate next door neighbors, they're great. They say hi and bye, but I mean, they're not, I guess culturally, they wouldn't be ones to come and hang out with us and have drinks. But they came, they brought a dish. They brought one of like their authentic dishes and they said hello and they went back inside.
Oh, that's
like,
nice.
so there's still, everybody still got to say hello. So now when you see a face, you can wave when you're driving by. It's not awkward.
Yeah.
But, and then ever since then, it became like a annual thing. It lasted for a few years. Now the kids are older, so we still do it.
Yeah. Until 4 o'clock in the
minus,
morning.
Minus the kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just you have to put a little bit of effort into it. Right?
And do you think that changes your sense of enjoyment of living in that house? Like, would it make it harder to move?
Oh, absolutely. Because about 5 years ago, we were contemplating moving.
Mm-hmm.
We were thinking of moving. Steve always grew up with land, so he wanted to have a bigger backyard. And the street was we literally said, the street is what's keeping us here. Yeah. Because the friends we've made on our street, there's 5 of us, there's 5 families. We've been to Dominican twice together. We rent cottages every summer. It got us through COVID because we had a pact. We're like, okay, if anybody shows symptoms, we stop hanging out. But we would we've became like a little family, I guess. Yeah. But it's the street that kept us there.
That's nice. It's interesting to hear that you do actual trips together because I've never done that, but I have a couple of clients on the street where many of them have since moved, but they still do that. Every year they go on 1 or 2 trips together.
Yeah.
So, and I'm kind of envious of that.
Yeah.
So
It's our street is we're in a little cul-de-sac, so it's not a through street. It's just if you live there, that's why you're on that street. But it's older families. There's not a lot of little kids anymore, but everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows their dogs. They know what dogs like to play. I would if I'm living in Milton, that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
I think that is 100% where I want to be. We're very, very close with our neighbors now. I think there's some romance going on between the two guys when they go golfing. I don't know. But it's such a great street.
yeah.
It's such a great street. I love it. And the first year we moved there in 2020, September of 2020. At Christmas time, there was a knock on the door. I opened the door and there's carolers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I've never experienced that. I mean, and they sang a song and then they went to the next house. I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Like it was nice.
Were they like a charitable organization
No,
or they were
like probably 10, 11, 12 years old, these kids.
Okay.
Like there's about 4 or 5 of them. And
That's cute.
I don't remember what song they did, but I was just I was like deer in a headlights because I was like, is this really happening? And then they moved on to the next house. I was like, oh my God, I just had carolers at my door.
Yeah,
you don't
sweet.
ever see that. Like never. So it's cute.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So good ideas for people that are just starting out would be, I love your idea. Actually, I may do that at some point, putting notes on doors to invite people to a planned event. So that event, did you host it in your front yard?
Yeah, it was literally on the street.
Okay.
We called the fire department. The fire truck came out. The kids all got like those little red plastic hats.
Yeah.
They brought the kids through the truck. We did a bouncy castle one time and we set it up on one of the driveways.
That's nice.
It's great.
It's like an event. It's a big event.
Now, did you close the street down?
So we're on a crescent.
Right.
So what we did is we just put 2 big orange pylons on each end, just not to close off the street, but just to caution, like just, slow down.
So you
There's
didn't do it
something
officially, like go to the town and get permission to do it?
No.
Because you had so many people on board?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody complained?
No, like I minus like the 10, there was probably the entire street was there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
And if they weren't there, they would send their kids. It's free entertainment. Free food.
Yeah. Well, on a Facebook page is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think that works really well. Ariel and I, when we first moved in, we started one. I think most neighborhoods probably have their own now.
Yeah.
So if someone's moving into a neighborhood, figure out what that Facebook page is. And that's an easy way to introduce yourself. No pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Find out where people live and coordinate something like an event like that. Or, well, you also did the neighborhood cleanup, right? That's always well received.
Mm-hmm.
You do stuff like that. Who would you go to if you needed to borrow something? Do you have somebody?
I have my immediate neighbor.
Okay.
I actually borrowed sugar last week.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I
ran out.
borrowed sugar.
I was making
eggs.
muffins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's nice.
And we have house keys to, I think, 4 houses around us for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
They have our house keys. Yeah.
I haven't done that. Have you exchanged keys?
We haven't exchanged keys. I've left keys if we're going away.
Yeah.
But the 5 of our families, we all know each other's garage codes. And I have the keyless entry on my door, so they know that. But if keys, I'll exchange keys. If we go away, I don't have a dog, I have a cat, so cats are easy. So usually I'll get 2 of the neighbors. They come, they'll watch him, play with him, and feed him. So them I'll leave a key just in case. I'm like, if you need to move the car or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we all have pretty much access to each other's homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I've used it a few times where I've been locked out because one of my kids has removed the key. Anyway,
I've done it.
Car situation where I'm like knocking on the next door neighbor. I need to get in the house.
Yeah.
So, but it's mostly for animals. We have the keys mostly just to let dogs out or cats and whatever.
Yeah.
So.
I've had to call my neighbor a couple times to say, like, you know what, I'm not home, but my kids, this was like when my kids were younger and they would be leaving for school and nobody would be home. Like, I know, like with Lucas, he's probably making himself eggs and we've got a gas stove. So I'd be like, Daria, can you go next door and just see if he's turned the gas off? And that's happened multiple times.
Yeah. Did he ever leave it on?
No.
Oh, good.
No.
You
But it's
trained
like
him
me,
well.
I'm like going back home. Did I turn off the gas? Did I close the garage?
Well, every
It's one of
time we
those
leave
things,
the house
right?
for a trip, that's going
That's the
through.
worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the Home Alone.
Yeah.
Where you leave the kid.
Yeah. Well, and you sharing keys, that's a good reason for people. And that's why we as a company, we always change the locks or rekey the locks for people that are new when they buy a house. Because you don't know who has a key, right? Could literally be your neighbor.
I could have 10 keys out there. I have no idea.
Yeah.
We have keys everywhere. So
note to most buyers is change the locks when you move into a new house. The one thing that blows me away too is with people that share driveways, like this guy I was talking about, where he doesn't get along with his neighbor in the townhouse. Is sometimes you're driving around these neighborhoods where you have townhouses in the winter and you have this strip of snow down the middle that nobody wants to touch.
Drives me crazy.
It's petty. I feel like it's childish. Like somebody just, man up, for lack of knowing the better term, but just
2 minutes.
Shovel it.
Yeah.
Because that just fuels the fight, right?
Yeah.
And makes you resent each other even more.
Mm-hmm.
But you're both at fault, I would say. But some people aren't social and some people are nasty.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I think if you make the effort to build these relationships, it will work and you'll enjoy living there more.
If you come out the bigger person, you're going to feel better too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nothing's worse than feeling petty and.
Oh yeah, it's one thing not to socialize and not to really get to know your neighbors, but to have to not get along, that's different.
Oh yeah.
Right? To purposefully, because if someone does that, that's you're doing that on purpose. You're doing you're either trying to prove a point,
going out of your way to be
yeah.
a dink.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of that too probably stems from just poor communication.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's something bothering you, talk to them about it, and they probably don't know it's bugging you. And a lot of the times it could be things like if someone's getting renovations, it may not even be them directly. It could be one of the trades they've hired is making a mess, and all of a sudden that's making you angry. Or maybe they're building a new house next to you and you already resent the owners because of all the noise, but you've never even met them.
Yeah.
And then you meet them, but you don't even give them a chance.
That happened to us actually in the house we're in now. We were redoing the entire upstairs from ceilings to bathrooms, knocking out walls. Anyway, the trades were coming, which were all firefighters. They all have trucks. They were parking in front of our neighbor's house and our house and using the driveway. And our neighbors they're older. They like to sit out on their porch and see their empty spot. They got really upset.
Yeah.
So they started putting their trash bins in front so that nobody could park there. And we finally went over and said, we're just doing work for the next couple of weeks. We're trying to use our driveway as much as we can. And it was totally fine, but they didn't know what was going on. And they just thought that we were having people park there. So anyway, it was fine. We went over and spoke with them, but they were put off at first.
For sure.
So just a little communication.
I don't know if I told it in another podcast, but I once got home. It was lunch hour. I got home. It was in the midst of a lot of the snow we were getting this year. And I was sitting in my driveway about to get out of the car. And I noticed a lady down the street who walked out of her house, grabbed some garbage that had obviously blown onto her driveway or her lawn rather, and she just threw it onto the road. And they're big things like big milk cartons and stuff like that. And for me, my natural instinct when I see garbage in front of my house, I'll pick it up, just put it in my blue bin.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. So I was kind of turned off. I was kind of upset by that. So I walked down and I said something to her, and she had gone inside. So I knocked on the door and I said, hey, I saw you throwing that trash on the road. I've picked it up. I'll toss it in my bin. I would just, maybe be a little bit more considerate next time. And then she started crying, and she was obviously having a very bad day. So I felt bad, sort of felt bad afterwards. I wanted to say what I wanted to say, but I felt bad that she was having a bad day. So I went down to my freezer and grabbed a frozen lasagna that I had made, and I brought it back. And I said, hey, you're obviously having a bad day. Here, you don't have to make dinner. Like, here's something to make your day a little bit easier.
Such a typical Adrian. So nice
well,
of you.
I think it was, but I tried,
nice
even more so in recent years, just trying to very intentionally go out of my way to do things that are nice and to meet people. And that's the biggest thing for me, is to meet people. Because that's, for me, I could sit in my basement, play video games, and never talk to anybody and be pretty content.
Yeah.
Are you my son?
It's quite possible. Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy relationships. And in fact, a few years ago, well, quite a while ago, maybe upwards of 10 years ago, I was preparing a house for an open house. I was preparing it to list for sale. And I was outside just taking some photos that I could post on social for that day, just to promote the open house. And I was knocking on doors and inviting people out to the open house, as we do still to this day. And I knocked on this one door. This older, well, he was a little bit older than me. He answered the door. He was playing video games. Answered the door with his headset on. He's like, sorry, I can't talk. And close the door again. I'm like, oh, okay. As we do get doors slammed in our face. But he was fairly polite about it. Anyways, he comes out afterwards when he sees me taking pictures. And he was very chatty. You've probably met him maybe at one point. And he's like, oh, what are you doing? And I explained what I was doing. And he's like, oh, do you want to come to poker tonight? We're having my buddies over, we're playing poker. And it was just so unusual. Like, nobody's usually that friendly and open. So I wouldn't normally go, but I said, screw it, I'm going to go. So I went and I had fun, and now we're like best friends till this day.
That's awesome.
He's since been deported from the country, which is a whole nother story, but still, best friends nevertheless. And one thing I learned from him was that through him, I made so many friends and great relationships. And he's the exact opposite of me. He's just so talkative, and he seems to do so well at connecting with people. Yeah. So after he left, I very quickly realized that he was kind of the glue that held a lot of our relationships together. Okay. So then I started trying to take the initiative to, invite people over more often, or, call people regularly. Think of people all the time, but how often do you call them?
Well, exactly.
So, yeah. And I find that's helped a lot. Yeah. And when you look at studies for longevity, one of the most important components of it is relationships, right? Like, keeps you alive longer. So I think it's that important that people buying houses should be taking the initiative to build a nicer community. Yeah. So that's all I got.
Yeah. I find if you're outside too, like if you've got a lawn and a garden, people are walking by all the time. I mean, at least in our street, they're walking by all the time. I mean, you just, hey, you see them after a while. Hey, I don't know your name. I see you all the time. And then it just kind of starts from there.
Yeah. Well, Alicia and I like sitting on the porch. Yeah. The front porch.
Yeah.
Specifically for, one, people watching, because people are, it's fun to see what people are doing. But also, anytime someone walks by, I'll always try to make eye contact and say hi. And some people are receptive, some people are not. Yep. But I think Mattamy was good with a lot of their early developments, especially with making, just having porches to promote that kind of community, which I think worked really well. And we love our front porch. I don't think I could ever have a house without one. What other things can people do, just before we wrap it up? What other tips would you have for people to contribute towards being a good neighbor? Can you think of anything? No?
I don't know.
Well, how about like even just taking care of your own property?
Yes. Yeah.
That's definitely a big one. Like, there's a lot of houses where they just don't cut the grass. There may be reasons. Maybe they have a disability, or they're just too busy. Yeah. But I think a lot of people, it's just, they neglect it and they don't see the reason to. But I think that goes a long way. Yeah. Right. You walk by, I go for walks with the girls sometimes, and they always point out the poorly maintained houses. And they're just kids. Like, nobody's taught them anything. It's just, they recognize the lack of care. Right. So even just cutting your grass once a week
Yeah.
can go a long way.
Yeah, definitely.
Or you could have your, like, if you've got a kid that's old enough, say, hey, go and offer your services. Say, $10, I'll cut your lawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
make a little side business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what kid doesn't like money?
Right?
Right?
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's our podcast for today.
That's it.
Okay.
And for those listening, I'd love to hear how many of you have neighbors that you hate. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, much like the two of you here, how many have neighborhoods that they would never want to leave because of the people?
Mm-hmm.
That would interest me to hear stories about that stuff.
For sure.
Well, thank you both for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having
Thank
us.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Please make sure you subscribe and please let us know what you love and what you don't love about your neighbors. Don't forget to listen to the next podcast. No. Okay.